Welcome to the Executive Corner, Expert Talks by Kalkine TV. I'm Sage, but today's guest is Ms Philippa Bird, founder of WhatsonSydney. And this site provides Sydneysiders with all the latest events in Sydney and New South Wales to find out what's on for today or the weekend. Bringing you live on the show today, we have Ms Philippa Bird, founder of WhatsonSydney. Welcome to the show, Philippa.
Thank you. Good morning.
Great to have you on, Philippa. Now that things are opening up and the tourism sector's hopefully going to be a buzz soon, WhatsonSydney is a long-running website, and this was founded by yourself in 2003. And haven't things changed since then? Could you please share with us the inspiration behind your brand?
It sure has changed over the years dramatically. Well, I was new to Sydney in 2003. And I was very frustrated because I couldn't find out what was going on, and I'd often find out about events after they'd happened, which was really annoying. So I was searching around the internet quite a lot, trying to find out what was going on, and I found out any sort of event sites there were, which were very, very few at the time, they didn't have a calendar functionality, so you couldn't find out what was happening on a certain day. So I decided, having no knowledge in programming, to make the website out of Microsoft Word, because I did know how to use that. And so I made a calendar, and then I hyperlinked every date for 2 months. I did this, made the website for 2 months, and then every day I would go and make an extra day. And so that's how it started, just out of pure frustration, really. But it wasn't easy back then, because once I'd made it, then I had to find out what was going on and get people to list with me. And that was a bit of a struggle, because back in 2003, people were only just starting building their own websites, and they couldn't see the value of advertising on somebody else's. So that was the first hurdle I had to get over all those years ago.
And this was before the times of social media as well. Like you're saying, people were just building up their websites and they'd prefer to have all their information on their own. That's very interesting. So,
Yeah.
Well, you rose to the challenge, and somehow now you've got people approaching you to buy advertising space and campaigns for their events and activities. So that's fantastic. I'm also an independent theatre producer, and I've advertised on your website before. So definitely you are known of out there. Who do you see as your main clients, and what do you see as your main revenue raising strategy?
We've got so many clients now. I mean, pretty compared to when we first started, obviously. But they're far ranging, from anything from theatre to big restaurant chains now. It's changed over the years, but really, the way the site's been built up, I've been really lucky, and all my relationships have been built just through email. And some of those people who started listing with me in 2003 are still with me today. So that's lovely, and obviously over those years we've built up quite a rapport with each other, and we know each other very well. So when COVID hit, it was quite personal, some of the stories I heard, so that was lovely. But as for making money, well, that was the tricky part, because the whole ethos of the site was to give something back to the community, particularly the arts community, because I could see back in 2003, one of the only ways people could get or could advertise was through the newspapers at the time, because internet really wasn't that big, and it was obviously very expensive. So most of the theatre companies, the independent ones, they're all not-for-profits, and like comedians and art galleries and musicians, a lot of them don't have a lot of money to advertise. So to ask them for money was really tricky. So obviously to list with us, as you would know, is free. But then to make money out of that was a bit tricky when you're giving things away for free. So the first thing I did was then redevelop the website and had spaces so people could buy banner ads. So that's one stream. And that lasted a few years, and we thought, that's going okay, but still not enough. So then what are we going to do? So I had the site developed again. And that was when we brought in our membership packages. So people, like you say, social media's come on board now. So we've got our own social media channels. We send out regular newsletters. So we have membership packages that range, so people, depending on their budgets, can choose which suits them and sort of how many events they have in a year as well. And then we also we can sell tickets, so that brings in a little bit of money. But then in 2016, I was also scratching my head thinking, where can we go from here? Because with business, you never want to stand still and you always want to develop. So I realised we've sort of been sending out special promotions for Christmas and New Year. So I thought, well, they're going quite well. Let's expand them now. And so we do those for all sort of special events and for the holidays, school holidays and things like that. So that's been another stream. There's sort of been trying to find ways of making more money but not putting too much onus on the event industry because we wanted to support them in the first place.
Right, well, great strategies. So you wanted to be there to be the support infrastructure to get the news out there about the shows and the artists, but not to extort money out of them.
Exactly.
That works. It's a very unique strategy, but I really hope it works for you.
Well, it's not going to make me $1 million, but it's very rewarding.
Absolutely, there's definitely some good value in there. Some arts organisations did pivot to online events during the downturn caused by COVID-19 restrictions, and some charged tickets for concerts and theatre shows online, or even panel discussions. Were you able to sustain enough business to continue trading during the lockdown from these online events? And do you think the government has done enough to support small business during the most recent lockdown?
The answer to the first question is no. We didn't survive at all, really. It was very tricky, especially the first lockdown was easier than the second. The first lockdown we knew it was going to be for quite some time, so we managed to look at the site and take lots of information down and just put little notices up on listings saying that they were closed. But then when the second one came, it was a bit more difficult because we thought it was just going to be a snap lockdown, so we just left the site as it was and just put up a little notice on the front page saying, Sydney is shut for a couple of weeks. But then it got expanded. So then we had to have a little bit of a change because things like Vivid cruises and things were up there, and we thought that looked a little odd. So we had to go through the site and try and take some of those events down. And also, obviously, because we're supporting the industry, all our membership packages are generally annual. So we gave everybody 6 months free because we thought, well, it's not fair. We can't advertise their events, so they can have it free. There were a lot of digital events come along online. It was a little bit slow to start with, but then some, people obviously who were the entrepreneurial ones, they got on board and we did advertise them. We changed our strategy slightly because usually you have to pay for a web link. But we thought that was not very beneficial to those people trying to make a living and keep going. So we gave them that for free as well. So we tried to support everybody as much as we could. Obviously, being online as well, our overheads are actually really low. So we were in a bit of a position that we could support where we can, which is why we managed to do the 6 months for the membership and things like that. As for the government, whether it's done enough, well, I said I wouldn't like to be a politician right now. It's a very, very difficult situation. There's a right or wrong answer, really. But the small business as such is so vast, and there's so many different industries within that. I mean, you've got the arts sector, and then you've got plumbers and electricians and all those as well. But there's been a lot of talk about the tourist industry and hospitality, but not so much talk about the arts and supporting them. And the arts sector in Australia is huge. It employs more than 350,000 people and brings in an economy of 17 billion a year. So it's not small. We've had the wine and dine vouchers, obviously, and that's given some support out there, but not enough. And of course, the knock-on effect of all the arts being shut down is what people probably don't realise, is that all the PR companies and promoters and the agents, the ticketing agents and all people like that, they will have all been affected as well. If you're talking about a theatre, you've got all the stage hands, the props, the sets, all those companies, they've all would have been out of work as well, just because of one sector being shut down. And it wasn't something that I really thought of until a lot of my PR companies that I deal with were ringing me up and or just didn't hear from them, afraid, for 6 months because they didn't have anything to promote. So it's been an interesting time, and it's affected a lot of people. You know, a lot of the PR companies that I deal with are only small. They've got like a CEO and then maybe a couple of staff. And a lot of I've noticed that a lot of the staff have not been around much. So hopefully that'll all change in 2022 and everybody can come back on board again when things kick off.
Exactly. Well, thank you for sharing the insiders' insights there, because that's an amazing amount of money the entertainment sector does bring in to Australia that you mentioned.
It does.
And yet there is quite minimal support for those that are making it happen. So very interesting.
Right. I think there's a bit of thinking out there, because I know that a lot of actors and musicians and comedians, they all work part-time or full-time as well. And they're always going, oh yes, they do it for the love of it. But, you know, they have to make money as well. And a lot of those people, their full-time or part-time jobs would have been in hospitality. And of course, they've gone too. So they're struggling on both counts.
That's very true. I mean, one positive aspect of that side of things here in Australia is that if you are a big star, you don't really get hunted down by the paparazzi and fans in Australia. But that does happen elsewhere, where those sort of celebrities and actors are paid a bit more and given a bit more face value.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Interesting to ponder upon. Well, now that we are reopening, what should we look out for, Philippa? Is Sydney Fringe Festival going ahead? And what about Vivid Festival of Lights? Was that due to be on soon? Do you have any insider news on these Sydney faves?
I do, and sadly, I was all a bit doom and gloom, really. No, they're not happening. Vivid's not going to happen until next year. Fringe is not going to happen until next year either, so it's a bit sad. But the Sydney Film Festival is happening in November, so that's great news. That should have happened in June, I think it was. And there are still some, the Come From Away is happening at the Capitol Theatre as well, so that's good. So that's come back. I was going to say is because it's been very difficult for theatres and art galleries and places like that, because people haven't been able to rehearse. They're then not been able to put on their shows, and then the shows that were happening during lockdown or should have happened during lockdown, they haven't happened either. So there's been a bit of a knock-on effect. So it's going to take a while for the theatres and the art galleries to sort of catch up with themselves, because they've got all these artists doing all this work and they've not been able to have, perform and things. Because Come From Away was originally going to be at the Lyric Theatre, and I expect there's something else going to be on there now, and so it had to move theatres. So that's been a bit of a challenge, I should imagine, for some producers to get their head around all that.
Absolutely, especially from the contract side of things, with backlogs and actors or producers required on other projects, and yet it's because of delays they can't meet their contract agreements. It sounds very complicated.
It does. I'm glad I'm not one of them.
Yes, but I've also seen Moonlight Cinemas looking for employees, Theatre Royale, and City Recital Hall, I think, is also soon to be opening its doors. So hopefully things will be abuzz again soon. Yeah.
Well, look, next year is looking pretty good. We've got Wind in the Willows happening in January. The Sydney Festival will be back on as normal. So I'm hoping that, the lockdown stop and 2022 is all full steam ahead.
Great. Well, hopefully that happens, because I'm sure we're all looking forward to getting out and getting cultured again.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need to get out and support the arts.
Exactly. Here. And the government's predicting that COVID-19 cases and hospitalisations could increase significantly by the end of the year, although our figures seem to be decreasing, which is good news. From your knowledge, do you have any safe entertainment suggestions for those who are not vaccinated come the Freedom Day for the unvaccinated?
Well, we're lucky in Sydney because there are so many outdoor events, and that's what I would suggest. If you're a little bit worried about going to the theatres still and the capacities, I mean, there will be less audience, which is another problem, but I won't go into that now as well. So yeah, things like Wind in the Willows, the outdoor cinemas. There'll be things happening in Darling Harbour as usual. So things like that, everybody can enjoy and keep safe and social distance.
Great. So
Wear your mask.
Yes, get some oxygen again. Philippa, we have to start winding up, but before you go, we'd love to hear what your near-term goals are for What's On Sydney.
Oh yeah, well my goals will be just to reconnect with all my members again, because obviously I haven't heard from some for a little while, and that's going to take some time, and sort of just build on those events again, help people out next year, and really just see where the year takes us. We will be doing Christmas and New Year promotions as usual, and then hopefully we kick off again strongly with the Sydney Festival, and things all happening in January. It's always big, massive.
January in Sydney is so much fun with the Sydney Festival. You're not wrong there. Well, thank you so much for being available for Expert Talks today. I really did enjoy your insights.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you.
And if you've just joined us, we just had a very informative discussion with Ms Philippa Bird, the founder of What's On Sydney. Please check out the full recording on YouTube via Kalkine Media and keep watching for more expert talks, live market updates, and as we say, stay apprised and invest wise with Kalkine.